just not used to it. Okay, listen, we're going to start today's show with life-saving information for you. The medical director of endoscopic neurosurgery at Buffalo General and Gates Vascular Institute, Dr. Jason Davies, is here to talk about stroke and what you should do if you suspect one. Good morning, and thank you for coming in.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
You listen, explain to us first, everybody always hears about it. What is stroke? How would you define that?
Yeah, so stroke is something that a lot of people don't understand. It's when a portion of the brain isn't getting enough oxygen, it's not functioning properly, and people start to have problems like their arms aren't working, their speech isn't working. It's really when the brain is having the equivalent of a heart attack. A portion of the brain stops working, and that's what a stroke is.
What can lead to that?
So there are two different kinds of stroke. The biggest problem with stroke is that it's a blockage, a clot that's in one of the blood vessels that deprives the brain of oxygen. The other kind is if there is a bleed in the brain that can essentially squash portions of the brain and cause them to stop working. So there are a lot of different medical conditions that can lead to it, things like problems with the heart, problems with the carotid arteries, and any one of those can cause problems.
Are any one type of people more susceptible to stroke than another?
Yeah, so there are definitely differences between racial groups, but really it's a lifetime of good living that really can affect us. So things like poor diet, poor exercise, diabetes, hypertension, those sorts of general medical problems can add up to cause a lot of risk for stroke. And it's a big risk. More than 1 million people a year have either a stroke or a mini stroke in the United States. And that's the #1 source of disability in the United States at this point.
If you're lucky, you get some warning signs, but you have to act on those warning signs.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Time is of the essence with stroke. And the stroke can be easy to spot in its most common form. What we like to tell people is there's an acronym, FAST, F-A-S-T, that you can use to help to recognize those signs. So F, face, is the side of the face drooping? A, arm, is one of the sides of your body weak? Can you not lift your arm? Can you not lift your leg? And S, speech. Are you having some problems with your speech? You're not able to articulate, the words aren't coming out. And then T, time. Again, time is of the essence. And if you do notice any of these things, face, arm, speech, you got to get to Gates. You got to get to the emergency room as fast as possible. The way I like to think about it is your brain's on fire. You got to go right now. And if you want that fire to be put out, you got to get to the emergency room.
You cannot wait and see if this is going to get better.
Absolutely. One of the worst things that people can do is go lay down, take a nap, and hope that it gets better. Hope isn't going to make it better. Hope is only going to make it irreversible and worse.
If your parents had stroke, if you have people in your family, are you at a higher risk to get it?
Yeah, there are certain genetic factors, and that's actually one of the areas that I'm currently doing research on, is how can we understand people's personalized risk. So you, with your genetic background, with your ethnic background, with where you live, socioeconomics, how is that going to impact your risk of stroke? So absolutely, there are definitely some genetic linkages.
Luckily for us, we've got a great place to go if you suspect stroke.
Absolutely. So Gates Vascular Institute, which is at Buffalo General, is unknown to many Buffalonians, world-renowned for stroke. We really put modern stroke treatment on the map. Under the leadership of Dr. Nick Hopkins and now Dr. Elad Levy, we've been involved in some of the very foremost trials to understand how can we better treat stroke. So it used to be that when people had stroke, you'd try to get them to rehab, you'd try to maximize how they could recover, but you really didn't do a lot to treat stroke. Now we're very proactive. When you get to Gates, we see you first thing in the emergency room. We have advanced imaging that really helps to understand what's going on. And now we're actually able to go in and remove the clot and pull things out and restore blood flow to the brain. And whereas before you may have come in and you couldn't move your arm, you couldn't speak, you couldn't walk, you're going to walk out of the hospital in many cases and make a complete recovery, which is amazing, which was never something that people had considered possible years ago.
Oh,
and it's
amazing.
Buffalo where all this happened.
And Dr. Davies, we are just so thrilled that you would come in and talk to us about this. This is life-saving information. We want to thank Kaleida Health. We want to thank Gates Vascular, because that's where you need to go if you suspect stroke in yourself or someone else. Please get right to Gates. They could save your life, and they could save a lot of your mobility too. Thank you again. And if you would like more information, KaleidaHealth.org.